Okay, good evening. Welcome to the second session of the positive psychology of the global online courses. And my name is Yukun Zhao, and today I'm here to talk about happiness. So, and as we mentioned in the WeChat group, we switched the topic. Originally, we planned to talk about character strength tonight, but since so many people asked about happiness last week, at the end of Kai Ping's course, so we decided to talk about happiness first because I guess people concerned about happiness more. So today we're going to talk about four things. First, science of happiness, how to use the science to study happiness. And secondly, I guess everybody care about, the relationship between money and happiness. And thirdly, so if money cannot buy happiness, or maybe it can, how to get more happiness. And fourthly, we also need to know the limitation of happiness. We don't want to get too much or wrong happiness. So these are the four things we are going to talk about tonight. And first of all, the science of happiness. Wait, this doesn't work. The keyboard doesn't work either. Guess the machine is not very happy tonight. Okay, now it's happy. Okay, so we are going to talk about the science of happiness first. And actually, whenever I talk about, when people ask me about positive psychology, I would say, okay, that's the science of happiness, meaning of life, character strength, etc. There are always two questions. First, how can science study happiness, right? Happiness is a subjective feeling. It's something related more to philosophy or religion or a culture. It cannot be studied by science. And secondly, from another direction, we got an attack saying, okay, science should investigate something that's more serious, like mental health, right? Or, personality, etc. Not happiness. Happiness is such a shallow thing. And these two questions are not trivial questions because it actually changed a person's career, which is Edward Diener. He's also called Dr. Happiness, who unfortunately passed away this year. So when he became a student in psychology, actually the one thing he wanted to learn, he wanted to study is happiness. But everybody in psychology laughed at him. They are like, okay, you are such a shallow person. You want to study happiness. Look at the word. The word is in such a miserable state, right? I remember some student asked Kai Ping last week, there are such misery and bad things happening in the world. How can we study positive psychology? So Diener cannot study happiness because if he did, then he could not get his degree or tenure. So he had to study something else. He spent several years to study mental disorder. And finally, he got tenure in his university. As we know, tenure means this professor is quite safe now, right? So on the day he got his tenure, the first thing he did was to walk back his office and throw away all his old books, materials, research. And starting from that day, he started to study happiness. So he pretty much actually founded a new field called subjective well-being, because even for him, he doesn't want to call it happiness, but it's subjective feeling of your well-being. And well-being is a well-received concept. So this is actually happiness, how well you feel. That's the subjective feeling. So he defined subjective well-being to have two components. One is affective, the other one is cognitive. Because this is to answer the other question, how can science study happiness? It's a feeling. So the first thing is, of course, measurement. So he proposed that we should measure happiness as in two components, the affective component and the cognitive component. For affective, there are two things, positive and negative. So that's positive emotion and negative emotion. And then for the cognitive factor, it's called life satisfaction. How satisfied you are of your life. If you evaluate, if you think about your life, okay, I'm quite satisfied. That means you are cognitively happy with your life, right? So then he developed questionnaires to measure these three things of happiness. So now I ask you to take your pen and let's do this questionnaire to measure how happy you are now. And you can keep those papers, so don't worry, no social desirability test here. You just keep those papers for yourself, and I just want you to know how happy you are right now. Okay, so this is the first one, positive emotion, and the next we'll do negative emotion and life satisfaction. Please take a piece of paper and a pen, and here are 10 types of positive emotions. Please evaluate how much you feel recently of this 10 positive emotions. For example, interested. You feel quite interested recently. Very interested, 5. Not at all, 1. If it's moderately, 3. All right, you get the idea. So now please evaluate how much positive emotions you have. And for students online, please do that too. Okay, done? Okay, now we switch to negative emotion. So same thing. Think about how much these negative emotions you feel recently. And if it's a lot, give it 5. If it's not at all, very little, then 1. Okay? Okay, I guess most of you are done with this one. Okay, so last one is the life satisfaction. This one is different. It has 5 statements, so please evaluate how much you agree with those statements. And remember, this time it's a 7-point Likert questionnaire. So if you agree with it a lot, it's 7. Otherwise, if you don't agree with that at all, for example, in most ways, the first one, the most ways my life is close to my ideal, but I feel my life is terrible, not at all. I can see someone is shaking her head. Then give it a 1. Otherwise, if it's, in the middle, 4. Okay, please answer these 5 questions and calculate the mean of these 5 ratings. Okay, you're done? Okay, I can see most of the students are done. So now let's see the answers to this riddle. Okay, so here is a research done by scholars from Tsinghua University, our university, and also Peking University, the next door, and also the Cornell University. So it's a research conducted to both Chinese and American samples. So here are the results. For the red, it's the Chinese sample, and blue is the American sample's results. So as we can see, say like you are Chinese, then the average of Chinese people's positive emotion measured by this questionnaire is 2.83. So if your answer is higher than 2.83, congratulations, you got more positive emotions than the average Chinese people. And negative emotion, that's the reverse way of calculation. So if your score is lower than 1.88, then you're happier because you have less negative emotion. And life satisfaction, 3.78. So that's, the Chinese people's subjective well-being. And we can see that compared to the American people, it's very interesting, right? You cannot simply just say, okay, Chinese people are less happy. Because, yes, we indeed have less positive emotion and the life satisfaction is lower, but we also have less negative emotion, right? That's probably due to the cultural difference that American people tend to express their emotions more, and Chinese people tend to hide their emotions. So both positive and negative emotions are lower, but the life satisfaction is quite lower than that of the American sample. So basically, if you're not sure how to compare your results with the other people, because you may have more positive emotion than average Chinese people and less life satisfaction, then here's a simple formula. Subjective well-being is positive emotion minus negative emotion plus life satisfaction. So put your 3 numbers together, the positive one minus negative one and plus life satisfaction. You got the final number. And the final number of Chinese sample is 4.73, US sample is 6.31. So try to see whether you are happier than the average Chinese people. But if you are not, don't worry. That's why you come to this course, right? We will make you happy. Okay, so this is how happiness are measured. And this is why it's possible to use science to study happiness. So scientists use this kind of measurements and did a lot of research. For example, this is a famous research done by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. We probably know him by his very famous book, Think Fast and Slow, right? I guess some people read this book. But also he is one of the few psychologists who won Nobel Prize because, as we know, there is no Nobel Prize of psychology. So he actually won the Nobel Prize of economics because his research, together with his partner Tversky, revealed that we are not as rational as we thought. Actually, when we make decisions, it's often based on irrational, emotional reasons. But here, he did some research. He did some different research. He actually, together with Deaton, surveyed the American families to see how happy they are and the relationship between their income and happiness. Because this is one question that most people care most about. So can money buy happiness, right? Are rich people happier? We would assume rich people are happier, but let's look at the data. So here is their result. They divided the annual income of these US families into different brackets. And so some of them, the average income are lower than 10,000. These are pretty poor people, right? And some of them are like, close to 2,000. These are like 30,000, 40,000, and up to 80,000, and 200,000, etc. Those who are more than 75,000 are rich people. And he used pretty much the same measurement as at dinner. So as we can see, he measured first positive affect, that's positive emotion, and not blue and stress-free, which means blue and stress. So these are negative emotions. He used not blue and stress-free to reverse it, because otherwise the whole lines will go the other direction, which will make the graphs very confusing. So this is the negative of negative emotion. And ladder, this is actually what we usually call the life satisfaction ladder, because they often ask the questions in the way like, so if life is a ladder, and how satisfied are you on this ladder? Are you 7, which means you are very satisfied? For example, to the first question, I feel my life is almost ideal. So are you on the first step of the ladder? So that means I'm very satisfied with it. So simply, ladder means life satisfaction here. Okay, and the result is very interesting. So first, as we can see, yes, money brings happiness, right? Rich people are happier. So it's like, I think it's chicken soup if you say, okay, happiness has nothing to do with money, it only comes from your inside. It's actually, science doesn't agree with that. If you are a poor person, you really need to get rich to become happier. And as they become happier, as they become rich, as we can see, the subjective well-being also increases. But when they become something like middle class, this increase actually slows down, right? And after they become kind of like upper class, the most wealthy people, then actually more money cannot bring more positive emotion or decrease their negative emotion. However, the ladder keeps increasing. So which means they don't feel happier, but they think they're happier. Because when they think about it, okay, I'm so rich, I have so much money, I must be happy. But they don't feel happy. They don't have more positive emotions. So that's what this graph tells us. As the Chinese saying says, which I think is invented by the writer Wang Shuo, money cannot solve all problems, but if you don't have money, that's a big problem, right? So that's the relationship between money and happiness, which means if you don't have money, you should get more money, but if you have a lot of money, or just more than average, then you need to think about other ways of increasing happiness, because more money cannot bring you so much happiness. And more than that, that's because if you have more money, actually you will get adapted to this new increased lifestyle, because this is called hedonic adaptation. So when good things happen, we will become happier, but then we will come back to some set point or base level of happiness. And this is largely determined by our genetics and also childhood environments. So how you are raised, right? For example, if you are raised by a loving, warm, and caring parents, then you could be happier than someone who is raised by a cruel or ignoring parents. But the biggest factor is actually genes. So according to a study done by Lincoln and Intelligent, they surveyed more than 1,000 sets of twins who are raised separately. So these are the perfect examples of study the influence of genes and environment on a person, right? Because they have the same genes, but they are raised separately. And they found that about 50% of variance of happiness can be explained by genetics. So this is the biggest factor that influences happiness. But we still got a lot of spaces, right? So even though we got the happiness set point, when good things happen, yes, we got this hedonic adaptation, but there's still a lot you can do. So that's why we have this positive psychology course. But first, we need to understand the science behind it. So basically, if you have good things coming to you, for example, me, I was born in 1975, so I grew up in an environment which is pretty poor according to today's standards. So when our family got the first TV, I was very happy, right? I was a child. But the happiness only lasted like 2 months. And then I was used to it, right? Because I think, okay, my family should have a TV, right? If we don't, then I'll be unhappy. But if we have, then I'm not happy with it, not more happier with it. And then I started to have, our family started to have the refrigerator or all the other fancy stuff. But it can only make you happier for only like 3 months. And then you will crave for something else. That's what adaptation means here. So someone give it another name called hedonic treadmill. We are always pursuing something. We are always trying to get something because we think that thing can make you happy. But it's like treadmill. You are running on a treadmill. You are running to your death. You are running very hard, but you are not moving ahead. So that's what treadmill means here. So the implication is that happy is actually a verb if we think about it. Happy is not something you can get happiness or the adjective. Happy is an adjective. It says, okay, this is a happy person or I'm in a happy state. But if you really think about it, happy is a verb. This is the state that you are doing something that you need to pursue. But so it's when you pursue an intrinsic goal. This is a term from the self-determination theory. It means the goal is really from your heart. It's really identified with you. For example, meaning of your life, the values, your self-growth, the flow, when you feel flow, or interest, passion in something, which means, okay, when you do this thing, it gives you enjoyment. Or you do this thing because it's good, it's right, it's the correct thing to do. And on the contrary, if you pursue the extrinsic goals, for example, money or face or status, those kind of things cannot bring you lasting happiness. So the conclusion here is actually happiness. If we think about happiness, don't think it as a goal. You don't need to pursue happiness. You need to do something that's meaningful. and valuable to you and make you grow and you enjoy, and then happiness will come with it. Otherwise, you will be always running on this hedonic treadmill. So this is the first implication of the research, from the research on the relationship between money and happiness. And secondly, correlation is not equal to causation, right? I think everybody who understands research knows this. So those studies are actually correlational studies, which means we look at the person and we found that the people who have more money are happier. But that doesn't necessarily mean money make them happy. It could be happiness bring them more money, right? And actually, this is a hypothesis proposed by Ed Diener. So he did a study and looked at some college freshmen. So he looked at their questionnaire results that was done 19 years ago. So for some reason, they actually surveyed those freshmen's happiness and found some are happier than others. And then after 19 years, they found the happier freshmen are actually now, they have higher income and more satisfied with work, and they got less likely to be fired, which means they are more successful. So this is an example of happiness actually can predict your success in the future. Of course, some people may question the validity of this study, saying that, okay, maybe that's because, some students are from a rich family or powerful family, right? So when they come to the college, they are happier than other people, and then in the future, they make more money. Of course, Ed Diener will not make this kind of mistakes. So he divided the students into 3 categories. So those students who have from the family of about 10,000 US dollar per year. These are the poor family, and the middle class family and the rich family. So 19 years ago, those is actually some money. It's not as little as today. But basically, as we can see, first, the status do kind of you can inherit your status from your parents. It's true. Rich people from rich family do make more money than people from poor family. This is a cruel fact. As we can see that students from a family of about 400,000 US dollars, they actually make about, we can see, for 20,000, actually 30,000 more from people from 10,000 family. But in each category, we can see that the students who are happier actually make more money than the students who are not that happy. And interestingly, the happy kids from poor family makes about as much as unhappy kids from rich family, right? So this actually is something very interesting. That means the happiness actually can offset the disadvantage of the financial status of your family. So even if you're a poor family, don't be unhappy, right? On the contrary, you should be happy. Then you can make as much money as those unhappy kids from rich family, right? Unfortunately, you still cannot make as much money as the kids from happy kids from the rich family, but that's still a lot. Okay, so this means the causal relationship is not one directional, that money brings happiness. It could be happiness brings money. Because we know happy people, they are more energetic, right? And so they have more energy to work. They are more optimistic. So they are willing to embrace the challenges, and they are more likable. So people like to work with them. So it's very possible that they can be more successful than the other kids. So this is the relationship between happiness and money. But how can we know that money really can or cannot buy happiness? This has to be done by experiments, right? So actually, Harvard Business School did this experiment. It's very interesting. They recruited a bunch of Harvard students and divided into two groups. So for one group, they give them $20. These are A and B group. And for the other group, C and D, they give them $5. But then they divided them into another two groups. So the first group, okay, you have to spend money on yourself. This is the B and D group. And for A and C, you have to spend money for others. For example, you have to buy something, buy a gift to someone else, buy a coffee, or invite someone to watch a movie, or you donate the money to charity. And for people who spend money on yourself, okay, by the end of the day, you have to buy yourself a coffee, right? Or eat a chocolate, buy a chocolate, or watch a movie. Anyway, so you have to spend money on yourself. Okay, so here is the question. Before they run the experiment, they asked a group of other Harvard students, okay, so for group A, B, C, D, which one do you think will be happiest at the end of the day after they use the money? So what do you guys think? A, C, okay. Apparently you are smarter than Harvard students because their prediction was that B would be happiest, right? Because you got the most money spending on yourself. Of course they would be happiest. But actually, you are right. You are partly right, sorry. The answer is that A and C are happier, equally happier than B and D. First of all, everybody got happier, first of all, right? This is easy to understand. If I got money to spend on myself, of course I'm happier. But if you spend money on other people, you are even happier than you spend money on yourself. And it's unrelated to the amount. You spend $5 or $20, same thing. You are happier than people who spend money on themselves. So this experiment, as summarized by the title of this literature, spending money on others promotes happiness. And they also did a survey. So they asked the family income and asked people, how much do you spend on yourself? For example, you pay your bills, right? You buy luxury stuff, or if you're in China, I guess, you send your kids to the training schools, right? Training courses. Okay, this is a Haidian district joke. Okay, you guys don't appreciate that. Anyway, so you spend money on yourself. And they also ask you, how much money do you spend on other people? For example, you buy gift to other people. You send money to your parents, which is rare for American people, by the way. And you donate your money to the church, to charity, etc. And they found, interestingly, that amount you spend on yourself has nothing to do with your happiness. It doesn't matter you are rich. I spent $20,000 per month on myself, or you're poor. Okay, I spent $1,000 on myself per month. If you spend on yourself, it doesn't predict your happiness, but the amount you spend on others is significantly correlated to your happiness. The more you spend to other people, the happier you are. And similarly, they also asked the relationship between bonus and happiness. Now it's the end of the year, right? So people in the US companies typically they will get a bonus. And some companies will get big bonus. For example, we sometimes watch from the news, right? People on Wall Street, they got millions of dollars as a bonus. But if they spend the money on themselves, okay, they buy a luxurious yacht or something diamond, etc. on themselves. That doesn't make them happier. But if you spend the bonus on other people, okay, I get a family gathering, I cook, I spend the money to make food for other people, for my family member, and to buy gifts, Christmas gifts to other people, then this money, the amount you spend, is significantly correlated to your happiness. So the key thing is not how much money you have, but how much you spend on other people. That's related to happiness. By the way, don't be scared by these results. Like, okay, do I have to spend all my money to other people? Okay, no, right, I agree with you. So actually, if you look at the literature, the average amount those people spend on other people is only 10%. It's not that much, right? I'm not asking you to spend 50% of your money on other people. That's not realistic, but just 10%. 10% is okay, affordable, and it can significantly increase your happiness. But this research is also questioned by some people like, okay, the first experiment, you only give people like $20. It doesn't make a difference, right? Because if you have a lot of money, for example, if you give other people $1,000, does that make you happier? I would prefer to use that money on myself to make me happy, right? So they actually did this research again on other countries, Canada, India, South Africa, and Uganda. So the money they used, $20, is actually pretty big money, right, in Uganda. But the results are the same. Of course, it's the same for Canada, South Africa, and India as well. So basically, it reveals the same results. If you spend money on other people, even if it's a lot of money, not that lot, but a big sum of money, it will make you happier than it just spend money on yourself. So this is the real relationship between money and happiness. Think about the graph done by Daniel Kahneman. Why poor people are less happy? Because they cannot spare money on other people, right? They have to spend pretty much all the money on themselves to survive. And rich people, they have more resources. They can spare more money to help others. So that can make them happier. So that's the true meaning of becoming rich. Becoming rich is not about your status, right? Or how much luxurious goods you can buy. Becoming rich is about you can have more resources to help other people. And this is actually what most billionaires are doing recently years. They are different from the old billionaires, right? Like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. They pretty much donate all their money to help other people. So that's what really richness is about. Okay, and thirdly, one important thing is that if you value too much about money, actually you are less happy. So this is a research done by Sonia Lyubomirsky, a professor from UC Riverside. She asked the people, how much do you value money and how much you value other things, for example, love? As we can see, the relationship between money and life satisfaction is negative, which means if you value a lot about money, your life satisfaction is actually pretty low, and the reverse pattern is for love. The more you care about love, the more satisfied you are with your life. So this is because, as explained by Sonia Lyubomirsky, those people who value a lot about money, they got into this hedonic treadmill, right? Because the pursuit of money is endless. You can never get satisfied unless you become the #1 richest person in the world, which is almost impossible. So you always feel unsatisfied. Why am I still not as rich as, for example, Musk or, Bill Gates? So you can never get satisfied. And secondly, an interesting theory proposed by Sonia Lyubomirsky is that this is correlational study. So that means actually not those people who value money are happier, but less happier people. They care about money because they don't get anything else to care about in their life. They don't have friends, they don't have things they love, they don't have meaning of life, they don't know what are valuable. So what can they pursue? There's only one thing left, money. So as this Chinese saying said, they are so poor that they have nothing else but money, right? So these are why less happy people value money more. Okay, so then what should we do about our life to get more happiness? That's the third topic we want to talk about tonight, the correct way of getting happiness. So first, sharing. Of course, we talked about spending money on other people, right? So this is a research done by Boothby. So very interesting. They just invite people to their lab to test a dark chocolate and ask them, how much do you like this chocolate? How flavorful do you think they are? And there is one condition. So they randomly divided those participants into two groups. In one group, there's a confederate, which means another person in the lab, who is also eating this dark chocolate, exactly the same dark chocolate, but they don't talk. This person just silently, quietly eats his chocolate by your side. And then in the other condition, there's another person who is reading a magazine. That's it. So that's the only difference. If you are doing something that someone else is doing, then turns out you actually like the chocolate more and you think this chocolate is more flavorful. So that's a very interesting research showing that we are truly social animals, right? Even if you don't know other people, but as long as this person is doing something the same as you, you become happier. So what's the implication? Never eat your takeout in your dorm alone. Go to the,食堂, the restaurants or the dining hall, right? Eat with other people who you don't know. That's fine, but that makes you happier. That's actually what I learned when I was working in the US companies. They have a motto saying, never eat your lunch alone. Always eat your lunch with someone else. Because, social relationship is the most important thing for happiness. Okay, so also sharing is important because it's related to our experience. And so that's my second piece of suggestion to you on how to increase happiness. Spend money on experience rather than stuff. Now, for example, go tourism trips, exhibitions, the music concerts, or dinner with friends, or just talk with friends. Anyway, experience, not buy another thing into your house. Okay, that makes you happier and also feeling more worthy of it. People who spend money on experience will end up feeling, okay, this money is really well spent, rather than, okay, I wasted my money. And they think, okay, if I have this experience, I make other people happier, and they feel they have more connections with other people. And because that ignites less social comparison, so that makes them happier. I think I have a duplicate slide here. And interestingly, even if you talk about experience, that makes you happier than talk about the stuff you have. For example, if you talk about a concert you went to, that makes you happier than you talk to a car you have, actually. Because you enjoy more about this experience rather than the stuff. And you like people more with the same experience. Think about it. If I have a Toyota, say like a Camry, and I see someone else who have a Toyota Camry, will I like this person? Maybe not, right? Maybe not that much. But if I go to a concert, for example, of, let's say, Pink Floyd, that's my top favorite band, by the way. Anyone likes Pink Floyd? I guess I don't like any of you in this room. Oh, okay, good. I like you. Okay. So if you say, okay, you also went to that concert of Pink Floyd, then we can probably become instant friends, right? But I'm not going to become friends just because you have the same car as mine. So because, our life is pretty much defined by experience rather than stuff. So we become more friendly towards others. This is different from a famous saying in the US, he who dies with the most toys wins. So that means the goal of life is to get more stuff. But think about it. what really defines your life? It's your experience, right? It's what you have done, not what you had. You are not going to carve on your tombstone saying, okay, the person who is buried here had 12 cars and 4 houses, or, 6 wives, or, this is wrong, okay. I just give numbers, okay. So you are not going to list what you have, right, on your tombstone, but you will list what you have done. Okay, this person went to Evermost Mountain, right? Or this person was a teacher. He was a father. He was a husband. He was a son, right? These are the experience. So we are defined by the experience rather than what we have. That's why when we talk about experience, that will make us happy. But we always underestimate how worthy it is to spend on experiences. So this is a research to ask people to predict how happy you will be after you spend money on experience or stuff. And then ask them, how much do you think it is worthy to spend money on experience and stuff? As we know that, okay, people think experience will make them happier, but they would predict that, okay, of course, money is more worthy spending on stuff because you've got that car parked in your home, right? And experience, you go to a concert and tomorrow morning you wake up, it's gone. But actually it's wrong. The people actually found it's much more worthy to spend money on it's more worthy to spend money on experience than stuff, even though the prediction is otherwise. So that's why we need to spend more money on experience rather than stuff. Because it promotes interpersonal relationship and self-recognition. You know who you are through experience, not through things, right? Not because you buy a car who you are, but because what you did. And it's less prone to social comparison. You can compare cars, but you cannot compare your experience. I go to a Pink Floyd concert. You go to a, I don't know, Angelababy concert. But no social comparison, please. No judgment, please. There's no social comparison, all right? Sorry, I don't know any young singers. Okay, so you can save your time for money for experience. You don't have to do the so-called 996, right, to get so much money, but rather you should spend more time with your family, with your kids, or do something you really enjoy and love. So that's the implication of those research. And that's also because, as the title of this research says, valuing time over money is associated with greater happiness. People who value time more actually are happier, because they know the value of time and they can use their time more wisely. Okay, so that's the second piece of suggestion I give you, to spend money on experience rather than stuff. And thirdly is, how can we beat the hedonic treadmill? That's when good things happen. Okay, you are happy, but very soon you are not that happy. You got to adapt to it. The solution is be more mindful to good things happening in your life. And then you are less adapted to it. You are less numb to it. You are always happier by those small good things that's happening. So here is a exercise proposed by Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology. It's very simple. We often ignore good things in our lives. So why don't you just write down 3 good things every evening before you sleep that's happened today? It doesn't have to be good things, big good things, because big good things will not happen every day, right? You cannot get admitted to Tsinghua every day. And you cannot get guaranteed admittance to your postgraduate study, right, every day. But there are small mundane blessings that's happening every day, like what Chinese people say, 小确幸, right? The music is pretty good, right? But you listen to it like, I guess, 5 times or 10 times each day. So you pretty much forgot how good that music is. Okay, so this is a 小确幸, my little happiness, right? So if you think about it, there are lots of little happiness that's happening every day. So for example, let me give you an example. Actually, the first time I did this exercise, I listed 11 happinesses. Why it's 11? Because the booklet that I was writing this exercise only had 10 lines. So I went to the bottom and I cannot go further. But anyway, so let me give you an example of good things that just happened to me today. First of all, the weather is pretty good. I mean, it's cold, but it's shiny, right? There's almost no smog. And clearly I can see the West Mountain or the Shangshan Mountain, right? It's very pleasant if you really do it. Look at the blue sky and the mountains. So this is the first good thing. And second good thing, I had a pretty good lunch today with old friends, with 3 old friends, and we talked a lot. So that's very good experience for me. And thirdly, of course, I come to this class, right? And I'm enjoying this lecture. I'm just like Kai Ping. One of his flows come from lecturing, right? And so am I. I really do enjoy lecturing. So this is fun. And this is challenging too. This is actually the first time I'm giving lecture in English, but it seems pretty fun. So that's a good thing. And fourthly, I actually just had a meeting before this class, and Miss Xu, where's she? She was kind enough to reserve a classroom for me so that I can have the meeting and then I come to this class, which is great. So the meeting went very smoothly. So as you can see, there are lots of good things that can happen every day. Oh yeah, and I added the famous 秋裤 today, which made me less, for people who don't understand that, that's the autumn pants. Anyway, to keep you warm. So today I added it, and when I rode bike, I feel pretty good. So anyway, so these are good things, right? So this exercise really can increase people's happiness. Marty Seligman and his colleagues did this research. They divided people into random groups, and the placebo control group writes down things, anything you want each night. Good things, bad things, things happened in the past, things that will happen in the future, anything you want to write. And the other group is 3 good things. As we can see, there's almost no change to people, right, in the placebo control, but the happiness of 3 good things keep increasing for 6 months. Why 6 months? Because actually they only ask the participants to do this exercise for 1 week. That's why we only see the difference of happiness of the placebo control group for 1 week. 1 week later, there's no difference. Why? Because they stopped. They didn't ask them to continue writing. But once you started writing 3 good things, you were kind of like it, and you cannot stop it. You were just continue writing. Actually, the person whom I dined with today for lunch, he told me that he has been continuously doing 3 good things for more than 400 days now. So more than 1 year, because he enjoys it. So that's why this influence is keeping here, increasing happiness and decreasing depression. And the depression symptoms of the placebo group is pretty much the same. So here is the key thing. As I write here, positive psychology is not a spectator game, right? So that means you cannot be spectators. You have to do something. Let's do this exercise. Now, please turn to the person next to you and share 3 good things that happened today. Okay, so I can see you sit close to each other, right? So you can just turn to another person. I'm sorry, you may not know each other, but let's do it. And if you don't have a person who can do it with you, you can turn to another pair to join the team to become a 3-person team, all right? And okay, let's start right now. You have 5 minutes. Each person have about, we don't have enough time. You have 4 minutes, all right? Each person has 2 minutes. Yeah, use English, please. And for those who are online, you can either choose a person that's next to you, you know, who is sitting close to you to do it, or you can just write down 3 good things that has happened to you. Thirty seconds left. Okay, time is up. Okay, I can see how you guys enjoy talking about good things. Anyone wants to share? Anyone wants to share? Volunteer to share? It's a great chance to, yeah, please. Can we hand the...
I think I was a very... Yeah, I was quite happy with talking with my...
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I've been talking with my friend,
Good.
My first good things is that I was trying to win swimming outside today. I was thinking this big challenge.
Outside.
So it's good. And the second sense is like I run in the morning. It's cold, but I tried. It's quite lazy, but I try to get up and then I finish.
Wow.
And the third sense is like normally I start with myself, but today my 3 of my friends come with me and study.
Wow.
So I think it's good. Yeah, that's all.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I think my friend is also good.
Oh yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yes, fine.
Like my first happy thing today is I have a good lunch with my friend. We haven't contacted with each other like a very long time. Actually, it's very good lunch. And second thing is I finished one of my homework, and actually I'm working on that like almost 1 week, and I finally finished it. I'm very happy about that. And thirdly, I got my parents sent me some of my favorite snacks, and I got the package today, so I'm very happy about that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, these are truly great, good things. So I do encourage you to keep writing, or if you don't like writing diaries, you can just use WeChat group, or these moments to share your happiness with other people. Okay, so these are the 3 methods of happiness that I recommend to you. But at the end of this class, we are actually, I think, over time, but let's have like 5 more minutes. I'll talk about the limitations of happiness. So first, happiness is not the goal of life or positive psychology. So that's, I think someone asked this question last week, is positive psychology about happiness? This is a picture I took when at dinner, Dr. Happiness gave a lecture to us. And he said, positive psychology is broader than positive psychology that you think. It's more than just happiness or gratitude or positive emotion. It's also altruism, helping others, self-regulation, like discipline and grit, etc. So it's more than just feeling happy. You have to do meaningful things and valuable things and stick on to it to make things happen. That's what we say about happiness. That's a side effect of doing valuable things, not a goal itself to pursue. And that's why sometimes I do things that I know will make me less happy. For example, according to a research done by Boymuster and his colleagues, when you live in the present, I guess we all heard this term, right? Live in the present, be in the present. You are happier. True, but if you think about the past and the future, you are less happy, but you will feel more meaningful because you are connecting dots, right? You are connecting the past and the present and the future so that you have a theme in your life. So I deliberately think about the past and the future, even though I know it will make me less happy, because I want to be more meaningful, not just happier. Because science is descriptive, not prescriptive. This is one term that I will keep using in this course. Science only describes the facts, but it's your decision, it's your own will to decide what to do. Science is not a doctor that prescribes what you need to do to you. So it's your decision. And secondly, there are wrong types of happiness. According to Aristotle, we have to have right amount, right time, right purpose, and right pathway of everything, including happiness. So if it's too much happiness, it actually could be risky. Research shows that if you feel too happy, you may have too much alcohol consumption and binge eating, eat a lot, drug use, etc., and ignoring dangers because you feel, oh, I'm happy, I can probably drive with the alcohol influence, etc., because you feel very optimistic. So that's bad. We don't want too much happiness, just moderate amount of happiness and untimely happiness. So when bad things happens, you ought to feel unhappy. It's completely natural. It's okay to feel unhappy, to feel bad. You don't have to be happy all the time. That's not an obligation. And of course, it's not right to feel happy if you go to a funeral, right? Or if someone else is sick or, got dumped by his or her girlfriend or boyfriend, right? You got to feel bad when bad things happen. And thirdly, wrong pathways. It's not like, okay, I will do anything I can to get happiness. Avoid the shortcuts. Don't, for example, if you just, it's the Double 11 thing coming, right? If you just spend a lot of money and buy stuff, I'm pretty sure you're very happy on that day, but maybe you are not so happy after, 1 month, right? When you see the bill. So don't do the shortcuts. Pursue happiness through meaningful ways. And also, there are some other cheap happiness, by playing games, by video games, and you always win, right? You avoid the real challenge in your life to really do something in the real world. And that's not the happiness we want to get. And finally, there's something called extrinsic happiness. That's what we mentioned. When you pursue extrinsic goals, like, social comparison, materialism, money, stuff, status, face, then you can get happiness when you feel, okay, I'm superior to others, but these are not real happiness. These are some wrong happiness. So, okay, wrong types of happiness. And, okay, this is research that shows if you care too much about happiness, you are actually less happy. Okay, if you look at the graphs, the gray part are people who don't value happiness that much, and the dark one is for people who value a lot about happiness. As we can see, when there's a lot of life stress, that means when you are in a tough time, when your life is not good, both groups feel unhappy, right? This is totally normal. But when things are good, when there's less stress, actually those people who don't value happiness so much, see, they have a positive emotion, they don't have so much depression, and they have pretty good life satisfaction. But people who value happiness, they are not so happy. Why? Because when the situation is good, they feel like, okay, then I must be happy. I have to be happy. But why am I still not so happy? There must be something wrong with me. So they become less happy and more depressed. So that's why, actually, if you care happiness too much, you will become less happy. And they did an experiment to prove that. So if you give people a negative stimulus, both groups will feel unhappy. But if you give them a positive stimulus, they found that if people who value happiness less, they will act more. They will feel less happy. They will have less positive emotion. So this is why we shouldn't take happiness itself as a goal. As we said, happy is a verb. It's when you're doing something that can bring you happiness. It's not a goal that you can pursue, something you can have. It's a state. It's not an end goal. So I would like to end this class with my favorite quote from Chris Peterson. Kai Ping mentioned this person last week. And I liked it so much that I printed it on my hoodie. Positive psychology is not a spectator sport. So we have to do things to make us happy, not just to learn something or just to, get something. And I hope this course can make you happy. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's the end of this class.